changes from review to approve the proposed agenda.
Yep.
Good. Okay, 4, perform all such other duties as are incident to the office or properly required by the commission. Okay.
That was the legal thing.
Anything under?
Yes.
Okay, yes, Ms.
And
Vice
it's
President?
not because I am.
Sure.
It is because, I have viewed with interest the, I need to say this carefully. There was a situation with the city in which they had a meeting that the mayor called in and was on teleconference. But the vice mayor chaired the meeting, and there was some limited public consternation about that, and so I want to make sure of what we can and can't do, and that we have it spelled out in here what we will do if the president of the Port Commission is participating in a meeting by teleconference. So I got here early to talk to Mr. Hartman about what our audiovisual can do. And my question to him was, if a member is participating by teleconference, can that member see the entire audience? And he said no. So I think we need to discuss who will be chairing the meeting.
I think the vice president should, if the president is calling in.
And I'm not looking to do that, but I think that would be a wise move.
I think Robert's rules.
The whole room.
Yeah, the Robert's rules allows to delegate chairing the meeting. The chair can delegate that as part of Robert's rules. And so what they did actually falls within Robert's rules. People may not have liked it, but it did fall, and unless I'm mistaken.
I don't know if it was announced at the meeting that he would participate, and he had asked the deputy mayor. I don't know what happened, but I just wanna make sure that we have our bases covered.
Yeah, that, my understanding is that even though the president may have been part of the meeting, he can delegate the running of the meeting to the vice president or to the secretary.
But do we want to address it?
That's a good idea.
You know, during the physical absence or disability of the president, exercise all functions of the president.
Sure.
I like that.
It says during the absence, and it could be interpreted that the vice president will, because the president is absent, but if they're participating via teleconference.
Virtually.
Well, doesn't disability cover that?
That's not
Interpretation.
Yeah, that could mean a lot. I think we wanna be careful with the wording
Yeah, we
here.
wanna be careful with that.
But the idea would be that if the president is not physically present, the vice president shall preside. That might just be its own separate line item for clarity.
Okay.
We can
I think it
consider
would,
that. So.
yeah, I think it would be, you only need it once to wish you had it in there.
Okay.
Well, one thing, Commissioner Burke is right, the one thing that I think has been missing from the public dialogue about the events at the city is the procedural steps that led up to that, and it very well may have been very clearly announced and approved that the deputy mayor would be presiding. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
The drama behind that is kind of consuming the whole story. But so that we have complete coverage of every scenario we can envision here, I think this is wise. Now, one thing that I noticed as I'm looking at this is under a president, subsection 4 very clearly says the president shall perform all such other duties as are incident to the office. We have similar language for secretary under 4C4, otherwise perform such further duties as are incident to the office. And we don't have that provision for the vice president. I'm wondering if we should.
Is that kind of like what 2's saying, kind of?
Not exactly.
Okay.
No, I mean, there are other things that aren't necessarily delegated, but that would just naturally fall with the office.
Just add that to
I
it.
think the vice president is the gopher. And so if the vice president is gophering and taking over as precedent that that is implied.
But it might be good just to be consistent, so we have it, that same wording at each level.
I can see that, sure.
Okay. So we're adding 3 and 4.
So where's
to
the
be-
incident list? You know? There's a precedent to this, so where's the incident list?
Or accident.
Well,
So-
part of what got me, I'm sorry, Commissioner McLean, part of what got me thinking about that was the earlier discussion that we had about the way I was thinking about it, the distinction between what commissioners shall do and what commissioners may do. And you may do all of the things that are incident to your office. Meeting with your constituents and some of the other things that we talked about. But my attention was drawn to the absence of that language here in B, and there may be a reason for it, and I can put some further thought to it and come back with a different recommendation after I've had some time to think it through. But it seems to me that each office should be specifically authorized to do things that are incident to that office, even those things we can't contemplate here in the bylaws.
Mhm.
So, if you're all right, we'll move on to item C, the secretary. So, these first 3 items really are ceremonial statements. The secretary operationally does not supervise the recording of the minutes. They do not retain a record of all motions and resolutions, and they don't supervise the safekeeping of the seal and the minutes. That's done by staff. So, just, that's okay. Is this the right, do we want to keep it this way, or should it be somehow modified?
I'm used to seeing it this
Mhm.
way, cause it's just kind of the secretary of the corporation ultimately generally just has that role.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they do it or not, their job is to ensure that it's
That it
being
is
done.
done. And that's what I did when I was elected secretary, I went upstairs and asked where the seal was. Cause that was one of my duties.
Have you done that?
Nope.
Have you made sure?
But I did talk about,
Kept safely?
I did talk about the minute, I mean, some of this stuff is a little dated in terms of the minute books.
Well, but I also asked about the safekeeping of the minute books, and we do not have a copy in a safe, I understand, but.
We do have a safe downstairs, and it's got really, really, really old minutes.
But I think that's just, that's
1920s and
that's kind of a
30s.
dated thing where
No,
you
no.
keep them on a server as long as you have a backup.
Right, and that's the safekeeping part. You should always have your minutes in a secure place or at a different location.
Or backup,
As
yeah.
set in